On this, while it is true that the nuclear deal allows for this, I'm wondering if you're aware of any other case where Boeing or another U.S. civilian aircraft manufacturer has been given a license to sell planes to a country that is designated a state sponsor of terrorism. You'll recall that there are Sudan. I don't know that there are many Boeing planes flying around Sudan or Syria for that matter, and I don't think that the North Koreans, when they were on the list, had any American planes. Do you know, is this an unprecedented thing to sell?
I'm certainly not aware of another example in the way you characterize it, but I would like to, if you could, just let me talk about this with a little bit more depth. So I don't know the answer to your question that it's ever happened before, quite the way you describe it.
Well,
but
what do you mean the way I describe it?
As, licensing to a state sponsor of terrorism.
But that's what happened, isn't it?
No, but it's all. But again,
I know it's legal under the JCPOA, but
JCPOA specifies
there's still a state sponsor of terrorism, and I'm just asking you if you know of any other case where the U.S. government has permitted the sale of American planes, civilian aircraft.
I'm not aware of any, but again, let me stress that the JCPOA states that any license for such aviation sales, and this is a quote, will include appropriate conditions to ensure that licensed activities do not involve, and no licensed aircraft, goods, or services are resold or retransferred to any person on the SDN, the Special Designated List. Should the United States determine that licensed aircraft, goods, or services have been used for purposes other than exclusively civil aviation end use, or have been resold or retransferred to persons on the designated list, the United States would view this as grounds to cease performing its commitments under the aviation section in whole or in part.
Does that mean that Iran Air would have to sell these planes? What if they just lent them to another aircraft
Resold or retransferred to.
Okay, so any kind of lending is out of the question.
Yes.
What happens if is flying flights into Damascus with these planes? Would that be okay in the current recognizing that it's going to be a while before they get delivered, but in the current situation, if a 777 or a 737 was sold to Iran Air and they started flying whatever into Damascus, would that be grounds for the license to be?
I'll have to take that question. I'm not sure, but again, going back to the language, it's talking about reselling or retransferring. It's not talking about the transportation of the use of civil aviation to transport passengers to and fro.
Right, but there's been a lot of allegations that a lot of passengers on some Iranian airlines flying from Tehran into Syria and Beirut, other places, have been carrying not just ordinary passengers and not just ordinary cargo, but I'm just wondering if those kinds of flights, or to say North Korea, for example, which is no longer a state sponsor of terrorism, but I'm
not an expert on that particular. You're asking a very legal question that I will take and get back to you rather than speculate. But again, the JCPOA is clear about reselling and retransferring or repurposing for anything other than civil aviation. It's very, very clear. So
okay, and as we understand it, under the terms of the deal, it could be worth up to about $25 billion. Is there any provision in this or in the government's license that would prevent or stop U.S. money from going to help pay for these?
Say that one again.
Is there any possibility that American money, U.S. money, in the form of, I don't know, subsidies or some kind of payment, whether it's taxpayer money or not, could be Boeing itself, could be used in this sale?
I don't believe so, but let me check.
Is misuse of the planes once they get to Iran, is Boeing in any way liable for that, or have they got to, you'll punish Iran under the JCPOA, but would Boeing share any liability for end use?
You'll have to let me check, Dave. You guys are asking me questions of a legal nature that I'm not schooled on, and I'm not going to speculate.
I add one more to that list. When Matt asked you about whether any U.S. government monies would be used in the sale, can you explicitly check whether any guarantees from the U.S. Government Export Credit Guarantee Organization. I forget what the exact name of it is, maybe the Ex-Im Bank, but whether there are any U.S. government export guarantees that are supporting the sale.
We'll take the question. You guys are asking very detailed questions. I just don't have information on.
It's not like you haven't had time.
That's right. You're absolutely.
We've been asking about this for a couple weeks.
You're right.
Anyway,
No,
thank you.
All good questions. We'll
No,
take
but
them.
thank
I'm
you for
not
taking-
challenging that. Just don't know the answers.